The world of the astronomer and the geographer is all in one piece, but everyone else's world is a patchwork of nations. And nations are people, and people are multiples of one. At birth, every human being inherits along with his looks, his race, and his background an alliance of powerful enemies in man and in nature. Some of them too small to be seen with the naked eye. Some of them vast beyond imagination. Enemies with many faces and forms. Some of them definitely ascribed to nature. Some of them vaguely attributed to human nature. Millions hopefully born into this world have been destroyed by an alliance of evils: hunger, poverty, ignorance, disease, aggression, and war. Compared to the main enemies to which every one of us is exposed, the celebrated monsters of history were casual symbols, minor characters who came and went. Usually ending up in defeat and disaster for themselves and their followers. Defeat for the Nazis, yes, but the main enemies have never been defeated. However, there's a difference these days. For standing against the ancient alliance of hunger, poverty, ignorance, disease, aggression, and war is a new, growing grand design of the United Nations. A design against the depredations of nature and of man. A master program, planned so that ultimately no nation, no people, no person would have to go it alone against any enemy, be it bug or bomb, depression or aggression. It all began a few short years ago in the fury of war. The United Nations working together in the defeat of a common enemy, working together on all continents and on the oceans. And although the young United Nations in its first years moved from country to country, seeking a permanent home, and though since its inception its troubles have been many, although its debates at times have been bitter, each member nation having agreed to settle its disputes by peaceful means, and though its problems inherited from World War II have plagued the organization and slowed its progress, the support for its aims has persisted and grown stronger, until today 60 nations representing 2,000 millions of the world's people are working together in the councils of the United Nations. With the cooperation of government and the support of the people, the United Nations has begun to carry out the grand design. In more and more encounters, the alliance of enemies has been defeated through the efforts of specialists, who under the United Nations banner quietly carry out the constructive work of the world. Against war in Palestine, where the United Nations stopped a conflict that might have engulfed the entire Middle East. A settlement by peaceful means. Against war in Indonesia, where the United Nations arranged a truce. A settlement by peaceful means. Against war over Kashmir, where the United Nations stopped fighting that might have destroyed millions. A settlement by peaceful means. Against aggression in Korea, where the invader was decisively stopped, where the United Nations took the first armed collective security action in history to repel aggression. And this, too, is part of the grand design, the design through which the United Nations works continuously to bring fighting to an end. In the grand design of the United Nations and its specialized agencies, there is hope for the future, and already much has been done in the fight against our ancient enemies. World War II left vast numbers of people with no place to go, stateless people, for whom new homes and new jobs were found among member nations. The grand design, against the enemy hunger, helping push back the haunting fear of famine. The United Nations has fed millions of the world's hungry. Against the enemy ignorance, hundreds of thousands taught to read and write, opening the doors to a new life and a new strength against all their enemies. Against the enemy disease, a child saved, many, many saved from tuberculosis, yaws, trachoma, and other ancient enemies by faithful men and women. Water tested against a hidden enemy, cholera and typhus. Against the killer mosquito, countless gallons of antimalarial spray have brought relief and hope to people who for centuries were helpless. 2 million cattle inoculated against disease that once destroyed the whole economy of a country, reducing the people to famine. Against erosion, thousands of acres of wasteland salvaged, protected, or made fruitful. Power, millions of additional kilowatt hours and man hours of industrial production, loans to countries that need them. Safety in the air, on land, and on the sea. Weather ships, sponsored by the United Nations, keep watch over the air and sea lanes. This, too, is part of the grand design, a design that is here to stay. For it is the will of the people that the United Nations shall not be stopped. Too much depends on it. The whole human race stands to be happier and freer in the future when the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is finally put into effect throughout the world. There is work ahead and the will to do it. Rubble to clean up, disputes to settle, fears to quell, mouths to feed, independence to be achieved, freedoms to guard. The grand design calling for all nations to combine their efforts against all enemies, whether of man or nature, is concerned above all with peace, freedom, health, security, and knowledge. And in this broad, far-reaching, long-term universal program, a seed is not too little, nor all humankind too big.